Hi from me, Jared Epstein, and welcome to another episode of Simcha, a celebration of life. Today, we join the organization Mensch at their recent Mandela Day event in Langa, Cape Town. And we get to hear more wisdom from the final insert of Yochi Res on sound, harmony, and Kabbalah. First up, Tisha B'Av is a national Jewish day of mourning and a fast day. Rabbi Oshi Darren teaches us all about the significance of Tisha B'Av.
It's a legend that's been around forever. I haven't found an authoritative source for it, but I'll tell you the story because I think it captures so much. It's told of Napoleon that on one of his travels through the continent he was conquering, he went through what was then one of the Jewish ghettos, and he hears a loud sound coming out of one of the synagogues, crying, weeping, wailing, and he steps inside and people are sitting on the floor. There are candles lit. And he turns to those who were with him and he says, "What's going on?" And they told him, "No, they're mourning over the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem." Now, Napoleon says, "What do you mean? When was the temple destroyed in Jerusalem?" They said, No. We're talking about 1,800 years ago. He said, "A people that for 1,800 years are crying over the destruction of their temple will definitely have their temple rebuilt." And that, my friends, is the essence, I think, of the holiday of Tisha B'Av. Millions of Jewish people around the world will be gathering in their synagogues in a spirit of somber reflection. But what you'll find in every synagogue on that night is a sense of longing for a glorious past and, please God, an even greater future. The holiday of Tisha B'Av is perhaps the essence of the Jewish people today in the diaspora. About 1,000 years before the Common Era, King David laid the plans, King Solomon formalized them and put them into place to finally build the biblical vision of a home for God in the place that I will choose for you. Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, which has at its heart the word shalom, peace, became a center of peace for the world around it, where delegations from all the nations of the world came up during the time of King Solomon to offer their prayers, their hopes, and their participation in building a better world. But sadly, time went on. In the year 586 before the Common Era, the Babylonian king of Nebuchadnezzar came to Jerusalem, and on the day of Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, in the Jewish calendar, his army destroyed Jerusalem. But during the days of the Persian king, Darius and Koresh, Darius and Cyrus, the people were allowed to return to their lands and they built a new temple. And so the Roman forces, under the leadership of the brutal general and later king Titus, marched on Jerusalem, and in the year 70 after the Common Era, the Second Temple was destroyed as well. And this destruction is one that we have not yet fully recovered from. This home for the nation, this home where heaven and earth meet, and where this connection to our divine source, to the source of blessings in the whole world, is forged, that place of connection was destroyed. And both times, although 600 years apart, almost 600 years apart, both times it was sadly on the day of the 9th of the Hebrew month of Av. So how do we observe the day? Firstly, it's a fast day. It's one of the only two 25-hour fast days on the calendar. We fast essentially from sunset on the night before. We don't eat or drink anything until after nightfall following day. We don't wear leather as a sign of its comfort and luxury. Married couples will abstain from intimate, loving physical contact of any sort. We don't shower. We don't use perfumes. It's actually a day that we suspend every possible form of the physical nurture that we're so used to. Why? The world is a very broken place. Even if we live within the illusion of our own personal immediate needs being met. And so this one day a year that commemorates the destruction of the temple, the brokenness of God's home, is actually a time for us to sit and to think about the people around the corner who don't have a home. Think about the children that went to school this morning with a hungry stomach. Our broken world needs to be fixed. And nothing represents that more than the brokenness, the physical brokenness of this house of God, this house of peace in Jerusalem that still lays in ruins. And so we come today with mourning, with sadness, but it's also the day that symbolizes what you and I can do to fix that. Because very soon, it's not only Napoleon who promised us. We are going to rebuild that temple. The world will be whole again. The vision of our prophets, as described by Maimonides, that in that time there will not be hunger nor war. There won't be jealousy or competition, because the entire world will pursue the consciousness of God, and of course the abundant goodness that comes with that is something that's happening very soon, and you and I are going to make it happen.
Mensch is a well-known organization in the Jewish community, bringing social change makers together. So naturally, their most recent event was all about making change during Mandela Day. We joined them at EP011 in Cape Town to support South African Urban Food and Farming Trust and Black City Farms.
Mandela Day for us has been a volunteering day we've been doing for 5 years. It used to be in person. We would do it at the Jewish Community Center. And then during COVID, obviously, we went online. And in that time, it actually became a really powerful fundraiser as well. We love doing things in person, so now when the opportunity came, obviously with COVID in a slightly different place, we decided to do it in person and online. So a hybrid event, which comes with its challenges, but really we try to cover both elements of what we wanted to do. So that was, we all know what Mandela Day is about, remembering and celebrating the legacy that Madiba left us, and his idea that everyone needs to step in, everyone will need to be involved to move our country to a place that we all want it to be. And we wanted to bring that ethos into this particular event. We decided to host it in Langa in person, which is a township just outside of Cape Town, or just outside of the city of Cape Town, about 15 minutes drive from the CBD. And we wanted to also allow our global audience that we've been engaging for the last 2 years in the event as well. So we hosted this live from Langa event where I sat on Zoom and we brought people into the fray even if they couldn't be with us in person. So on the day we had about 120 people that joined us in Langa and about another 10 or so online, and then a whole lot of people that weren't able to join, probably because of the time zones, for the time that it was on, but they'll be watching the recording now that we've sent it out. And the idea was to bring people to the township of Langa to have an experience, to get a little bit out of our comfort zone, and to learn about a project. So we, on Mandela Day, always like to showcase either our network members or projects that Mensch itself is involved in. So we've been involved in a feeding and food security program for the last year, we put together, what we do is if we're not just working with network members, we're networking other people and other things. So this opportunity has been about bringing a donor, an ex-South African from the States, connected through the Jewish Distribution Committee, the Joint, the JDC, a global humanitarian aid community organization together, that donor funding their project here in South Africa. So this is quite a big deal. JDC doesn't work in South Africa in the Jewish community currently, and this is actually now going outside of our community, and we introduced them to a number of local partners. So Mandela Day was about profiling that project in many ways. We basically wanted to bring attention to the agri-hub that they've developed. So this is the South African Urban Food and Farming Trust, is the organization that the JDC are supporting, and they have an agri-hub in Langa. An agri-hub is basically a community farmers kind of central point, a place that will support local small urban farmers with things like seedlings and compost and training, a grow and packing house where people can bring all their produce and sell it, bring it together, have it weighed, washed, and basically sent out into market. So that agri-hub is being supported by JDC, and we wanted the Jewish community and the broader community to know about it. That brought in our second partner, EP011. That's the venue that we're at. It is a community space in Langa, a place that small social enterprises can flourish. It also hosts a diner, the Sun Diner. Langa in Xhosa means sunshine, so it's the Sun Diner, and they also have a coffee shop. So there's this incredible community space, and we thought, why not bring people there? It's safe, it's contained, and it's very much part of the fabric of Langa's own community. So we brought these two partners together. We had support from JDC, we had support from the community, from the Jewish Board of Deputies, and from the United Jewish Campaign. And all of these different communities together really brought that flavor of what Mandela Day is about. So we hosted a cookathon, making soup. We had 120 people coming together to chop veggies, to learn about the farmers, and to learn about the projects involved. Something I'm very proud of is that Mensch is playing a very important role in bringing actual rands and cents into South Africa and into food sustainability. So the partnership with JDC, the Joint Distribution Committee, sponsored by David Horwitz and Families Foundation, they have actually invested into the SA Urban Food and Farming Trust project. And this is a multi-million rand project that over 5 years will see a huge number of people employed, fed, massive amounts of food grown, and our food system better established in Cape Town. It's not just a day, it's not just Mandela Day, we have a once-off event and everyone has a great time and then goes home. Yes, we built the day around Mandela Day. We cooked 500 litres of soup to feed 1,500 people in Langa today, going forward into Mandela Day and Mandela Month. So that's for the local community, and that's very much what EP011 does, is they provide a space that can support the community in various ways. But beyond that, working with SA Urban Food and Farming Trust, they and this agri-hub that they are building support over 150 urban farmers in the Langa suburb that work on 31 different farms. And these farms are not commercial farms, they're small home, household or community sort of sized farms, gardens. And for the first time, produce was pulled together. So we spent over 12,000 rand paid out to the farmers for the produce that made that soup on the day. That's a lot of income for those farmers in the community. And for the first time, all of those farmers brought their produce to the agri-hub where it was sorted, weighed, washed, and paid for. And I heard from Kurt Ackerman, our partner with SA Urban Food and Farming, he said that once all of the outer leaves had been taken off and washed, and just the veg that was being paid for essentially was all laid out beautifully, the farmers sort of stood back and they themselves said, wow, it looks like our produce looks like it's in a high-end supermarket, because it's one thing to grow a cabbage, but when you see it with 20 other cabbages and it just looks beautiful and fresh and full of nutrients, there's a huge pride obviously that comes with having grown that produce. So for us, it's a real it's just an absolute win to bring all of these elements together for the farmers to have achieved that sense of pride, to have earned an income. We're creating a circular economy here, and this event, this day, was a part of that, where we get to plug the Jewish community in to seeing how they can be part of this beautiful circle.
It's almost that time to say goodbye, but not before one more final lesson from Yochi Res in his Sound, Harmony and Kabbalah series. In his final segment, he shares how to reach and share higher, deeper levels of being and thinking.
That was a nigun, a wordless melody from the tradition of Hasidic teachers known as Breslov, the founder of which was the first generation Hasidic master, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, of blessed memory. And in Hasidic tradition and practice, wordless melodies are sung because we are taught that one can reach deeper, higher levels through singing a tune, just a pure melody without words, than when you have words. Words can be limiting in a certain way. And it's very interesting because when we talk about higher, we think in spatial terms sometimes that higher worlds are up there. But actually, we are taught in Kabbalah that those are dimensions of the spatial physical plane, and higher worlds and dimensions are deeper states of consciousness. They are all available right now, right here. It's just a question of if we tune into them or not. So the four main worlds of Kabbalah, from the highest to the lowest, the world of emanation, the world of creation, the world of formation, and the world of manifestation, are all different states of consciousness that we can tune into more deeply if we choose to. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov was famous for his inspirational message of hope, that no matter how dark it may seem, there is always light. No matter how negative we may look at ourselves, there is always hope for growth, and there is always positive qualities. Even in the falls and the failures, those can be transformed in an alchemical way to really enable us to have greater growth and transformation. And there's a beautiful teaching of Rabbi Nachman that has such striking resonance with the research around positive psychology, a whole new paradigm and revolution in psychology based on the neuroscience of what we understand about the brain. And Rabbi Nachman has this teaching of a verse of Psalms. And the verse of Psalms says, Azamra le'elokai be'odi. I will sing to my God with my little bit more. It's a very strange expression, my little bit more. What does that mean? There are different commentators that explain what that means. Rabbi Nachman has a fascinating interpretation. He says, when I'm trying to come close to God, when I'm trying to serve God, which should always be done with joy. It's a fundamental tenet in Judaism that we should serve God. Psalms itself says, serve God with joy. How can I do that when I look at myself and when I look at my situation, my spiritual standing, my moral standing, what I've done, and I don't feel anything but sadness and despair and hopelessness? How can I still sing to my God, to my personal God? How can I still have that relationship in a personal way when I look at myself and where I'm standing and where I've come from? So what Rabbi Nachman says is start with a tiny point of goodness. Seek in yourself and find one tiny point of goodness, one good thing that you've done in your life. Everyone has done something good in their life at least once, even if it was for an ulterior motive. Start with one positive point and just start there, and then try and find another little positive point and build on that, and build slowly and gradually. And in that way, you pull out more points of light and positivity, and you make music. You pull out positive notes from the mix of all different energies. And that's what Rabbi Nachman says the verse is saying. I will sing to God, I will make music to my God with my little bit more. Rabbi Nachman says, what is a musician? Think about a musician. Anyone can play any instrument. It may not sound that great, The skill of a musician is that they know which notes to pull out and focus on. A musician is able to extract the right notes and play beautiful melodies on whichever instrument or even their voice. And that is what Rabbi Nachman says this verse is telling us. It's telling us, as Zamra, I can be a musician, I can sing to God, I can still make music. But Odi, if I take and focus on the positive side of myself and I extract the positive elements in myself, and the same applies, Rabbi Nachman says, to another. When I see someone else who does not have positive traits, who really triggers me, who I have anything but love and appreciation for, how can I still see certain positive aspects in them and focus on that, whatever it may be? Everyone has certain positive qualities, even if they may trigger us. And Rabbi Nachman says an incredible thing. When we do that, when we focus on the positive in ourselves and in one another, we actually manifest that. We bring that out in reality. We bring that part of ourselves and each other more into manifestation and into actual reality. What we focus on becomes more manifest. And this is really what the whole school of positive psychology, based on neuroscience and how we understand the brain today, is teaching us. There's an incredible TED Talk by a psychologist, Sean Aker, is a professor of positive psychology from Harvard University. And basically the summary of that entire talk is that it's not success that leads to happiness. It's happiness that leads to success. When we are able to train ourselves and be mindful to focus on the positive and be grateful, it boils down to gratitude, which is actually what the word Jew in Hebrew means. Yehudi is from the word Judah, Yehudah, which means thanks, Todah, thank you. If we can be grateful and appreciative of the positive qualities in ourselves and others, we stop screaming and neurotically trying to achieve this so-called success, and we celebrate what is right, and we become more present and more creative and more resourceful, and the success naturally follows. So what a beautiful teaching from Rabbi Nachman about joy, about gratitude, and about being present and focusing on the right things and creating music from that. That
brings us to the end of this week's episode of Simcha, a celebration of life. As always, we'd love to hear from you, so please send us a Facebook message at Spirit Sister Productions. From me, Jared Epstein, and the Simcha team, we hope you enjoyed the episode, and we look forward to seeing you next time.